Oh, hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on ParanormalZoneTV. I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight. And for those of you who may be new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And don't forget to give the show a like. Now, tonight I have an awesome guest with me. And James has been on the show before. This is James Keenan. And tonight's topic is on the Skinwalker Ranch, which I am so excited. I know everybody loves this topic. Now, I want to introduce you to James. He has been on the show before. We did a show on shadow people, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Norene. Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
Yeah. Okay, so James, he is the author of 5 books that have science fiction, supernatural, paranormal content. He is a field investigator, an archaeologist, and a researcher on the paranormal and ufology. James lectures on topics covering the paranormal, ufology, and forbidden archaeology. We've got to talk about that. James believes that the paranormal, ufology, and ancient human history may have more in common than most people want to admit. So everybody, let's welcome James to the show.
Hi, Norene.
Hi, thanks. Hey, thanks, James. James has an amazing bio, and it's so long that I can't read it, but I did put it underneath the video. But James, would you tell them a little bit about yourself before we start the show?
Sure, absolutely. I have about 25 years in investigative experience, which includes law enforcement, loss prevention, private investigations, insurance investigations. I have a degree from UCSB in Interdisciplinary Studies with my major focus in anthropology and archaeology, with a focus in that in Mesoamerican cultures, specifically the Maya, Olmec, and Proto-Olmec. I've been writing books, fictional books, where a good portion of them are, there's some truth to it, actual events to it. For the last several years, I've written 5 fictional books, and I've been working a lot on bringing, lost culture and lost civilization information, to the masses, and kind of explaining or trying to find out the reasoning for their disappearance, which seems to always point towards some catastrophic event.
And what was your interest in the Skinwalker Ranch?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I've been focusing on past cataclysmic events that have, caused us to lose historical data or completely, wipe out civilization as we know it multiple times in the past. And while doing this, I've been locating artifacts and been looking at the petroglyphs and pictographs from Native Americans. And in the process of looking for this, I was researching in Utah because there is a large quantity of petroglyphs in that state. I happened to locate some very anomalous petroglyphs that kind of made me scratch my head and wonder what the heck was going on. 800 years to several thousand years ago. And as I did that, I pulled up the northeast portion of Utah, which these were in, which happened to be the Uinta Basin. And I had gone to a lecture probably about a few months ago that George Knapp had given. And George happened to be talking about Skinwalker Ranch. And I remembered that it was on the Uinta Basin. And so I started researching the locations and started reading up on more or less what he had discussed, and all the years of the scientific investigations that had taken place, and realized that the history and the historical data that I was looking at very well tied in to what was taking place. So you were talking, they were talking about this several thousand years. So the Skinwalker Ranch is the portion of the Uinta Basin that everyone is familiar with. But what I'm trying to show is it's not just the Skinwalker Ranch that all these anomalies and all this paranormal activity is taking place. It is taking place all over the area.
Would before we do start as well, would you give them the history, give them the story on the Skinwalker Ranch for those who may not know it?
Sure. So the Skinwalker Ranch is on the Uinta Basin. The Myers had homesteaded it in the 1960s. It's located directly below the Ute Nation reservation, and prior to that, it was that Native American land. In the 1990s, Myers passed away, and it was sold. The ranch was sold to the Shermans, who started ranching on it. They were cattle ranchers, and almost immediately, some really crazy and paranormal activity started taking place. And you're talking about a gamut of activity happening, anywhere from these huge wolves constantly being on the property. And we're talking 2-3 times the size of an average wolf that multiple people had contact with. You're talking about cattle mutilations taking place. You're talking about their dogs dying mysteriously. And when I talk about mysteriously, I talk about combusting or being liquefied.
Really?
You're talking about poltergeist activity, ghost activity, multiple different entities on the property have been recorded. You're talking about the Shermans having things moved around inside their home, showing up in the weirdest of places, like inside the microwave days later. Then you're talking about cattle that were out in the field suddenly being inside a closed containment unit, like a large back of an 18-wheeler that was out there, and nobody knew how the heck they got inside. So they were pretty much financially wiped out by this. Their cattle were being killed off. They don't know why. Eventually, Robert Bigelow offered to purchase the ranch from them. What's interesting there is he was actually the lowest offer for the property, and because the Shermans were so worried about additional ranchers coming in and the same things happening to them, they decided to sell it to Bigelow, because Bigelow had told them that he was going to bring in all these scientists and conduct scientific experiments and investigations and research and document everything going on. So that got passed on to Bigelow, and NIDS was the scientific group that had been studying while the Shermans were there, and then that kind of flowed into what was BASS, which was created by Bigelow and his scientific group out of Las Vegas. And they spent years on the ranch documenting a whole bunch of stuff, and they were very hush-hush about it. As a matter of fact, the time that Bigelow owned the ranch, the roads that led through the ranch were actually public roads, and he illegally closed them off and fenced them. And he put security up and cameras, and security acted as if it were a private catchers up there, but the Utes have put, and I forget exactly what it was that was there, but they have these large, almost like a dream catcher that they've put up there to ward off whatever they believe is there, which they believe is the Yi-Na-Ushi, which we know as skinwalkers. They are not allowed on the property, be it either by the tribal elders telling them not to, or just out of fear of what's going on. So during this time, the ranch got its nickname of Skinwalker Ranch based upon ancient Navajo lore of shapeshifters. The Utes had driven out the Navajo from this area, and because of it, supposedly these bad shaman or medicine men had placed a curse or cursed upon them where they had sent the shapeshifters there. And so that's kind of where the name came from. Now, Bigelow had been funded, we recently in the last couple of years found out, had been funded by Harry Reid and this ATIP program by the government, where there was supposedly $23 million spent. Apparently a portion of that was funding whatever was taking place at the ranch. Later, a few years ago, the ranch was sold to, they state that he's a billionaire. He formed a company which is called Adamantium, and Adamantium took over the ranch, which they still currently own it. What Adamantium did was they had the county vacate the road, which then made it private property, including the road that leads to the ranch. Currently, they have even better security than what Bigelow had on there. They have increased the cameras throughout the place. They're all over. They've added what looked to be a little extra barbed wire. They have excellent security who immediately comes out and stops you before you get anywhere within the gates. And so during the course of all of this, there are a lot of strange anomalies taking place. Some of it might be due to natural occurrence, but a majority of it is unexplainable, and hence the reason for it being classified as paranormal. And obviously, and I'm sure we'll get into it as we're talking tonight, there's a lot going on up there. It's not just specific to a shadow figure, or it's not specific to a shapeshifter, or it's not just specific to a poltergeist, or more recently, what I and multiple other people are starting to believe is government testing taking place as well.
Why do you think the government is testing? What are they testing up there?
So it looks like the government was testing and this is the potential or the possibility of whatever the phenomena is on the basin in that location, whatever's taking place, has the ability to interact more than likely in a negative manner, negative behavior on the human body. And it looks like they may have been using the scientists and the security that was on the ranch as guinea pigs without them knowing about it. And interesting, in the last few months, prior security during the time that Bigelow owned it have come out on other shows, and they talked about that whenever they would come in contact with the paranormal, they immediately not just did their recordings, did their investigation, did a report, but many times they were sent off to get a medical exam, which on occasion included magnetic resonance imaging and MRI, all the way out in Reno. And when they asked, do I get the results? They were told no. And they just kind of let it go, never really put two and two together. together until recently when people went back and they noticed that in DIA, the Defense Agency, declassified documents that were coming out. Several of the items listed on there were that they were supposed to see and examine and document what this phenomenon, and they didn't come out and say, phenomenon on the ranch at Skinwalker Ranch, but there's a huge probability that that's where it was, this was happening. And then when you're talking about the shape-shifting that takes place and these massive wolves that have been seen, and you hear the stories by security that have come in contact with them. One in particular is Chris Bartell. His story is just amazing. He gave just a minor little clip about it, but he said that the wolf that he came across on his second week at the ranch was the size of a donkey, and he never saw it again. And this thing turned around and jumped into, I can't remember if he said a creek or a little bit higher grassy field, and just disappeared. But as you look into the petroglyphs that I've been going around, you see this historical data, and it seems that there might be some type of device in use that the government may have also come across. They may have taken it and backward engineered it, and we're talking about potential of cloaking technology, or the technology that it's not a hologram that people see, it's a physical, tangible entity that you can touch, but it seems to be able to shift or give you that illusion of it shifting into the possibility of another human being or an animal. So you have these two different things as to why the government, the potential of there being government, cover up in regards to not just the technology, but also all the things that they've been doing to the people that have been working on the ranch.
Did this Robert Bigelow, this billionaire businessman that bought the property in 1996, did he come out with a study or a book or a report of what he found on the ranch?
So that's the thing, is nothing's been released from that time. You get these bits and pieces, these little clips. On occasion, they would invite somebody onto the ranch, like George Knapp, or other individuals, and they would document just, little tidbit, just a piece of the puzzle, and show the public, but not a whole lot ever got out during that time. And it was interesting because most of the information that ever came out was the time that the Shermans were on the ranch. Not a whole lot was ever mentioned while the Myers owned the ranch. And Dr. Garth Myers, who sold the ranch when his brother and sister-in-law passed away, told Terry Sherman that he didn't know anything about there being any paranormal activity or anything, and to pretty much just leave it as that, leave them alone. So you're only getting this little clip of when the Shermans were there, which was just a short period, and then suddenly everything becomes almost classified in the sense, even though we're never directly told that the government is involved.
And the new owner, they say it's a mysterious owner, that it's anonymous. What do they know about this? What has leaked out about this recent owner? Anything?
Yeah, he recently, and you know what, Norene, I've texted with him a couple times, and the new show is coming out on the History Channel. I believe it's going to be around April.
Yeah.
And I think at that time it's going to be made public who he is. And it kills me. I'm experiments that I've been starting to put together. So, but
is he allowing you to go on the ranch then?
he has not allowed me to go on the ranch yet, but I would absolutely love to build that rapport up with him, just due to the fact that what I've been investigating and researching doesn't seem to really have taken place at all in the past, which is very surprising to me. And the things that I've found, and there's a couple pieces that only Ryan Skinner knows about. I've discussed it with him. And then there's a couple other things I haven't told anyone yet that I would love to perform a certain experiment on the ranch at a very specific location. But like I said, I'll hopefully be able to talk to him or to Tom, who runs the ranch for the new owner for Adamantium.
How did Ryan? Oh, I forget what's Ryan's name again?
Ryan Skinner.
Oh, how did he have access to the ranch?
So, you know what, Ryan has for years just been fascinated and done a ton of research and investigation. He's written 2 books about his experiences there. He's gotten on there in the past illegally trespassing, and recently he was invited. He took part on the show that's going to be on the History Channel. He'll be a part of that. And he's just a wealth of knowledge, especially when it comes to the Native Americans. And instead of having to have had reinvent the wheel, it was awesome that he is just one of the few people that's so willing to share the information and the research that he's done over the years. And, you know, because of that, I was more than happy to, you know, open up and give him everything that I've had. And his, he runs and owns SkinwalkerRanch.org. And that has just got the most amazing information in regards to what's happened in the past, and also a timeline that is just phenomenal that he's put together over the years. Which, you know, it helped me from having to go back and to do so many, you know, find these people and go back and re-interview them. It helped me to go and find new people and be able to interview them in regards to what I have, you know, recently found.
Well, in the 1950s, it was referred to as the UFO Alley. Did anybody ever get any pictures of UFOs on that ranch?
So that whole area, you're talking about a little bit larger area like Myton, all the way out to Vernal, having just this huge amount of UFO sightings, you know, going through the basin. And I'm not sure if there was any UFO photographs that took place on the ranch itself, but there have just been hundreds of documented UFO sightings. There are many green and orange orbs that are consistently seen on the ranch and on the Garcia property on the east side, and above on the Skinwalker Ridge as well.
Wow. You sent me some pictures, so let's, before we get into questions and answers, let's go over this. Okay, so so this picture that you sent me, now this is one you actually took? You were on you were there?
So, I've not seen any photos.
It's 30-second delay. This one is the entrance to the Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, yes, that's the east side of the ranch. That was the road that was vacated by the county and is now private. Most people usually approach on the west side. That was why I decided I wanted to come up on the Garcia side of the ranch, because something had happened to their cattle that I believe I was able to tie in with a petroglyph that I located out there on the basin. And so I wanted to get a feel for the Garcia Ranch on the east side. As I drove up, you can see they have the stop, the no trespassing.
Oh yeah, here's the next picture. I should have, I just noticed that way in the back how I guess the security were they coming toward you then?
They were coming towards me in that black Jeep, yes. So I stopped at the location where it said stop. At the time, there was no need for me to get on the ranch because, like I said, this paranormal activity is taking place all over, and I actually believe that the focal point is on the Ute Reservation at a certain location. But I wanted to let everybody get a feel for the new security cameras that have been put in place. They look both westward and eastward, so they're able to see if somebody's trying to approach, by coming up in between the Garcia property.
And then you sent a picture of yourself, and you said this was at Skinwalker Ranch, Petroglyphs?
Yes.
Okay.
So McConkey Ranch is 21 miles away from the reservation and a couple extra miles away from the Skinwalker Ranch. But those petroglyphs there at McConkey Ranch show a lot of very interesting phenomena taking place that definitely ties into what's been documented on Skinwalker Ranch, especially when it deals with the portals that have been seen by multiple individuals and documented. Ryan Skinner was able to interview multiple people and as best he could document the specific location on the ranch, which he has up on the website, which was a huge help in forming my hypothesis.
Okay. So you talk about portals. How many of them are there?
So I believe there's 6 or 7 that have been documented. One of those is he doesn't believe is a sure thing, and that was one that I knew right away didn't fit into my hypothesis as to what was taking place because it wasn't at the right location from the focal point that I believe is on the Ute Reservation. And so these portals have been documented either by security or scientists or somebody that another individual has interviewed. And the portals seem to be very similar as to what is forming or shaping, taking shape out there.
Okay, so can you explain to the viewers what a portal is?
Sure. So, as we know, portal is some type of gateway or doorway. We're not sure if it's based on, location on different planets to here, or it's interdimensional, or it's based upon travel here on the planet. But apparently it's a way that it instantly connects 2 points together. You step through it or you look into it and you see another point on the other side, wherever that is, instantly. And distance supposedly traveled in these portals is long, it's vast. Whether it be from, here to another location on that same parallel line or to a different location or even interdimensional, we're not sure exactly what it is. But these portals, things have come out of them and people have seen it.
They've seen it, huh?
They've seen what look to be shadow figures coming out, creatures coming out, small creatures, large creatures, creatures that don't have much of a shape, almost anthropomorphic. And then the possibility that that's where these wolves are also coming in and out of as well.
Wow. Okay. Whoops. Hold on. Now you also sent me, okay, so now these 2 pictures you sent me, 4 and 5, are supposed NASA site that was out in the middle of nowhere, 60 miles from the ranch, supposedly tracking neutron stars and connecting with satellites in space. Can you explain that? This one here looks like a rod. What's that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was using long-distance ground radar sensing equipment. I was told to go out into the middle of the desert by an individual. So on the main highway between Vernal and the Ute Reservation, I was told that if I turn off at this one specific location and just drive down this road, it eventually leads to this concrete square out in the middle of nowhere. So sure enough, I went 6.11 miles in my vehicle, and the road just suddenly stops, and there's nothing around. It's just absolute desert. Everywhere you look, there's no power line, nothing leading to this concrete square that's probably about 12 by 12 or 14 by 14 feet, right around that length and width. And on this concrete, embedded in it are 4 discs that show NASA. And on it is a circle within a circle, which is the same thing that NASA uses, that the Freemasons use. The symbol is very important to the Ute Native Americans, to other Native American cultures. And it was just amazing that this really was out there. And I hit it with ground sensing radar, and there were cavities under this. And there were multiple cavities, several feet down and in different length and width. And when I tested for EMF, I got these huge spikes, and I made sure that I put my phone, I put my watch in my car. My car was parked about 40 feet away. I took all the metal out of my pocket, anything that could give me a false positive. But what was crazy was it read, I think my meter goes from 0.0 to 199.9, and it was hitting at about 128. And first thing I thought was there must be electrical wires running underneath to here, because I don't see any electric poles above. So I documented everything. I made a couple of videos. There were 2 other bigger discs that were taken. And it had been a while because weeds were growing out of the locations. Later I went back. When I got home about a week later, I went and I researched this. Apparently NASA has hundreds of these sites throughout the world, including in communist countries and locations you would never expect. And a lot of them have been abandoned. They were supposedly to look for and study quasars, or to bounce radar or lasers off of satellites up in space. And you're talking about in the 70s and 80s, when this technology was unknown to us. And this site, when you look at all the other sites, is the smallest site. It was never expanded on. It was never made from temporary to a permanent. And when you pull up the blueprints for it, it called for electric poles to bring in power. And I went through my video and I looked around. I pulled up Google Earth. There is no power anywhere. And there is absolutely no way they could have run 6.11 miles of electrical wiring under the desert to this location. I went to the historical center in Vernal, and I talked to the 2 ladies that were there that knew absolutely everything that's ever taken place. They knew nothing about this site and were just kind of in awe of what I was explaining that I found to them when I was showing them the pictures. They were just amazed. And when you go back and look at what NASA said, they're suddenly telling you in their, it's not declassified, but it was on information on the site, that they suddenly lost 5 years of data from this location. They said, because of it being turned over to the BLM and then back to state, and things happened, and 5 years of data was lost. Well, that's kind of a hogwash answer. What was going on there? And it's the azimuth settings, when you look at the blueprints, almost match other things that are happening at another ranch, which is called Blind Frog Ranch, where there's other paranormal activity taking place. And the way that it was set up, if it was supposedly there to study and seek a quasar, do you know what technology that is? Back in the 80s, that was available and on the Uinta Basin, there had to be more to it as across it and has an amazing souvenir now.
Whoops.
But
God.
Just crazy.
Now, what about this other one that it actually has NASA? Is that in the ground or is that a facility?
You're talking about those round copper tops.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. What's that?
So those 4 copper tops are in that concrete square in the middle of the desert. There's 4 of them, and it shows that it's NASA. It gives the year that it was. I think it was 1985, and the company. I think it was like GFFC or GCCF. I apologize. I can't see your pictures.
Is that okay? So I see trees and whatever. Was this taken from a drone? This is an actual facility in the ground, or did you walk up to it?
I walked up to it. I was standing on it.
Oh, really? Because it looks like it's from the air.
No. I probably took those photos from 18 inches, 2 feet off the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, we were joking about it. While I was there for about 20 minutes, and probably about 300 or 400 yards east from that location is a drop-off. It's another ridge that drops down again. And I don't know how far it drops. But while I was there, a Black Hawk helicopter with 3 military personnel came up from, they lifted upward from below the ridge and just were there in the helicopter for about 2.5 minutes,
wow,
just making eye contact with me.
Oh.
And when that was happening, I ran to my car and I got on my phone and I was telling an individual, hey, if I go missing or something, this is what's going on. And I have a photo of the helicopter, but I'm saving that for my book that I'm writing.
Yes, and you are writing a book on the Skinwalker Ranch. What is the title?
It's going to be on the Uinta Basin, Portals, and Skinwalker Ranch.
Wow.
So far, the working title is Portals, the Uinta Ranch, the Uinta Basin, and Skinwalker Ranch.
So, and you're hoping to get back on the ranch to do some investigating. Are you going to wait until you're able to get onto the ranch, or are you just going to continue?
Yeah, so like I said, I don't think the focal point is the ranch. Interesting things are happening everywhere, and the Petroglyphs are actually located at McConkey Ranch, at Dinosaur National Monument, and at 9 Mile Canyon. When you connect all those together, it makes this amazing triangle. From the furthest 2 points, it's about 60 miles, and right through the center, the very center of it is the Skinwalker Ranch and the focal point that I believe is on the Ute Reservation. And when I say the focal point, that's an interesting story in and of itself as to what took place on the Ute Reservation.
Well, then, when are you going to write your book?
I'm working on it right now. But, I mean, I can tell you what's happening.
If you want to. I thought, well, maybe you might want to wait until you write your book and then you come back on the show next year.
No, I actually lectured to Phoenix MUFON last month about most of my findings. I only kept a few things
All
for the
right,
book.
before you talk about that, you sent me 4 more pictures. Do you want to, let me see, do you want to talk about that? Because these are really interesting. Okay, so this one here, it's a anthropomorphic. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, anthropomorphic.
Okay, I'm showing that to them now. It did you find this and what is it?
Could you describe it a little bit more to me, what you're looking at?
It's the one that looks like it has a head with arms that curl under with 2 little feet, scrolly, and it looks like it has 2 eyes. You said it's coming out of a doorway or a portal, potential for
right.
other race or species.
Okay, so what you're looking at is while I was working at all the petroglyph sites, this is a known site. A lot of tourists come, but what's interesting is anthropologists have labeled it spirit beings because they don't even know what to label it. And as I documented the entire rock art, what you're looking at is what looks to be about, in that whole rock art section, about 38 creatures and probably 4 or 5 different species coming out of what looks to be a portal or a gateway or a doorway of some kind. And what's interesting is what they look like. They look like, and I always try to I'm a huge firm believer in the paranormal, just because of the things that have happened to me in my past, and I'm always open to that. But I always tell people it has the potential of looking like something other than humans. Some of those creatures look like grays. Others look like minotaur.
Okay, so this particular picture, is that on a cave wall? Where did you find this?
It is. It's on a shelter wall, so it's a semi indention into the rock, not quite a cave, so it's considered a shelter, and it's huge. It's probably originally it was probably about 10 to 12 feet long. Unfortunately, the left side of it was either taken or over time, cracked, broke, fell apart, and it's where this culture known as the Fremont culture gathered on the Uinta Basin anywhere from 800 to 1200 years ago, and I think it went even further back than that. And it's interesting because anthropologists and archaeologists don't even know who these people were. They weren't the Utes, they weren't the Navajo, they weren't the Anasazi. They labeled them Fremont culture just based upon some artifacts that were located at sites in that area. And what they were documenting, and it's interesting because people go, oh, well, it could be anything. Well, I look at hundreds, thousands of petroglyphs, and 49 out of 50 times, you know exactly what you're looking at. You're looking at a salamander, or you're looking at sheep, or you're looking at longhorn sheep. But there's that 1 in 50 that, makes you scratch your head and wonder what the heck was going on. On the Uinta Basin, it was more like 10 out of every 50 that made you scratch your head and wonder what the heck did they see that they documented it and felt it that necessary, because it's not easy to create these huge petroglyphs and pictographs.
No. So this is an actual drawing on like a cave. And it's all, now what's interesting though is it's all one color, like clay. Didn't they use colors in the I mean, they used to have color into them. These don't have any color.
Sure. So that's a petroglyph. They've been scratched into the rock.
Scratched into the rock.
Right.
You consider those?
The pictographs would be color pigment that they used and painted it on.
Do you consider these to be maybe aliens that they might have seen?
You know what, I would say the potential is absolutely there for something other.
And who drew these? The Indians?
See, that's the other thing is, and that was part of my lecture and part of my book, is I think this was other. This Fremont culture, I don't believe was Native American. I think they later became Native American. And I say that because when you look at the petroglyphs and the pictographs at multiple sites there on the Uinta Basin, we're talking about 40 degrees latitude. If you go further east, and we're talking about Sardinia, Italy, ancient Armenia, which is, Armenia, Azerbaijan, northern Iran, and you look at the artifacts from these other locations, their artifacts match what we're looking at in the petroglyphs. So what I did was I pulled up the sites, and here's what's interesting is you find a lot of petroglyphs of giants.
Yes.
Six fingers, 6 toes on each hand, each foot, or they have these huge feet and 6 fingers on each hand. And in the Bible, it even talks about the giants that had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes. That was how they were known as giants. Well, obviously, and then their size being 7 to 12 feet tall. Well, what you're seeing on the Basin in Utah, you're seeing in Sardinia. Remember, Sardinia is one of the major sites for these giants. And you got to remember that in Nevada and in Utah and Arizona, we have what we know as the Siteka, which the Paiutes told us were these red-headed cannibal giants that they hunted down and killed because they were tired of them eating their people.
Oh.
You see them in Sardinia, and when you go to the grave of the giants and the greatest density of ancient location for these ancient people that lived about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago in Sardinia, they almost match up to the very inch on latitude. And then you start seeing what looks like these portals opening in the petroglyphs all over. You're talking the possibility that there's a potential for portal travel along the 40th degree latitude line.
How close is this? So this is not actually on the property, but it's in with the vicinity of this Skinwalker Ranch.
Absolutely. Well, as a matter of fact, the Sardinia giants are just a few feet from where Skinwalker Ranch is on that 40th degree parallel line. And, what's also amazing is you see minotaurs in the petroglyphs.
Oh, here, you have sent me a picture.
Yeah, you see them all over. These are minotaurs. Guess what? You have Mount Olympus a few feet off. And you have Crete, the island of Crete, where the minotaurs were. They're in southern Greece. You're talking about, in all the ancient Greek texts, that portals were used for the gods to go to Mount Olympus and for people to go to Mount Olympus or for them to come back down to Earth. Well, guess what? You have the potential for it matching on the Uinta Basin in northeastern Utah.
Now, is this also on a side of the cliff?
Yes.
Or a cave, a side of a cave?
Correct. This is in the shelter as well as, and there are also other locations, especially in 9 Mile Canyon, which is south of Skinwalker Ranch.
God.
And on the other side of a mountain range.
And these are all carved in.
All carved in. There's a lot of pictographs too. Some of them are petroglyph pictographs together, combination of.
Okay, and then here's another one you sent me. This one here is, you said it's, oh, look at that. Some device transmitting out to space. This petrograph looks to be airborne and being thrust upwards. Celestial bodies are all around it.
Absolutely, and this was just one of the most amazing things to be able to go and research, because I almost spent a full day in that location, and what you see is you see what looks like rotation taking place on that long object. You see what looks like upward thrust on the bottom. You see what look to be bright stars and possibly galaxies or other celestial bodies around it. When you look at the full rock art, you also see what looks to be transmission waves coming out of it.
Yeah.
Like a break off of 5 points. Well, here's what's amazing about that is you are going to find out very soon that something is transmitting in the air around Skinwalker Ridge. It's coming. I don't know, maybe this new show is going to talk about it. Something is cloaked somewhere above. It's not on, it's not below ground, it's above and transmitting.
Wow.
this has been going on for a long time. And here's another amazing thing. There was a book written by two Native Americans back in 1997. On that cover, they talk about shapeshifters and skinwalkers. Well, guess what's on the cover? Almost identical. This transmission going out from the planet Earth in that same break as you see in that petroglyph out into space. With the spiral below it, what looks to be this disc object above the Earth, and this creature, this anthropomorphic creature shape-shifting. And these Native Americans were trying to tell us something. And obviously because of their culture and their beliefs, that it's, and I totally understand, my wife is Native American, that their culture holds certain things in very high regards, far more than we ever would from a Western civilization culture. And to them, this is history. They look at something like that and they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. This takes place on a daily basis. We're from the star people. We're from the little people.
Wow.
And it's nothing to them. For me, I get excited because I was taught for years by, my professors, a bunch of crap that they were taught from their teachers and their teachers, the same thing. And, this whole time, these Native Americans were probably laughing. They're like, sure, yeah, that's not what's happening, but okay.
Wow. And then one last picture that you sent me. This one, you said, is a Masonic symbol found on the ranch. Most likely came from Buffalo soldiers.
Yes, so that's been released a couple times. I don't know if Jeremy Corbell had it in his recent documentary or not. I haven't seen it. But I was able to get that photo. And it's up on the back end of the ranch. And it's the Masonic symbol, the square and compass. And what was crazy, and this was already known, that there were buffalo soldiers that were at Fort Duchesne in the 1800s. They were the ones that were brought here to, for the Ute Indians, if anything happened. Well, a vast majority of those buffalo soldiers were Freemasons. So there's a good possibility that was carved into the wall by one of those, or multiples of the buffalo soldiers.
How many caves were you able to find near that property?
So I located, and I had to go late at night because I had to go in by different means to the Skinwalker Ridge above the ranch. And I located one smaller cave. I also located another cave out in Dinosaur National Monument. And then I still have to go back. I'm trying to gain access through the owner at Blind Frog Ranch because apparently there's huge tunnel systems going throughout that property. And they weren't created for mining, not all of them.
Really? Are the other... Now, okay, Skinwalker Ranch is how many acres? It's pretty large.
Sure it is. So it's 512 acres.
Okay. Outside of the Skinwalker Ranch, is that property also, whoever owns those other ranches, having the same experiences as the Skinwalker Ranch?
Absolutely. So George Knapp documented east of Skinwalker Ranch on the Garcia property that their cattle were not being mutilated. What happened was their cattle looked to have fallen to their death in the middle of a flat field. They had fallen to their death, and this was multiple cattle.
Wow.
Well, guess what, Norene? In the petroglyphs that I located a petroglyph that looks to show this anthropomorphic creature going into what looks to be a portal. And then to the left of that portal is now upside down, and that individual is upside down, and there is an animal falling from the portal because it looks like they went in one way and then suddenly fell when they came out the other side.
Wow, how
so guess what?
strange.
That would make sense as to what happened on the Garcia Ranch. The bovine were walking in the field. They went through a portal, suddenly came out of a portal that was up in the air and fell
Oh my God. And there's a the Indians still have a reservation in that area?
They do. So the Ute Reservation is directly north of Skinwalker Ranch. There's Bottle Hollow Reservoir is there, and this is where a lot of the new information comes from. As I am convinced that the focal point, something underground on the Ute Reservation, is the main area where all this resonates out of.
So why is the government interested in the Skinwalker Ranch and not the other surrounding ranches?
So for two reasons. The anomalous events that take place, the paranormal events take place, are well documented. It happens a lot. When I was on the east border at nighttime, I walked about a mile and a half. I left my car so that they wouldn't see me drive up. Walked in late. It was pitch black. And you can see the telephone poles vibrating violently. You're talking about these huge, heavy poles that are in the ground, and they're vibrating so quickly that it almost looks like a blur. You know, how the heck is that happening? So you're getting this location, Skinwalker Ranch, where you can almost count on having activity take place. So that's one reason. The other reason why I believe the government's involved is because they're testing cloaking technology of sorts in that area.
Oh wow. Let me do you have a lot of pictures besides the ones that you sent me?
I do.
How come you didn't send them to me?
My presentation was about 160 slides. It was just, it would have taken many emails to get them over to you. So I picked some of the best ones that were available.
Can you tell the viewers of some of the strange phenomena, mysteries, hauntings possibly that has happened, and then any of them that are famous on that ranch?
Sure. Again, multiple people have seen these huge wolves. We're talking massive wolves. The Shermans said it was about 3 times the size of a regular wolf. Chris Bartell, who was security for 6 years on the ranch, up until Adamantium took over, said on his second week he had a wolf come towards him and the other guard, the other security personnel, that was the size of a donkey. And I'm not quite sure, I don't remember what he said they did, but they turned around, jumped what I think was into a creek and disappeared.
Wow.
People have seen shadow figures come out of portals. They have seen a male-looking person turn into a wolf. Another individual just recently on another show said that while he was performing his security tasks late at night, he watched this man jump off of Skinwalker Ridge, and by the time he hit, he was a wolf. He started running bipedally and then went quadrupedal on all fours and then disappeared.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. That same individual had 3 wolves come towards his dogs, and the main wolf made physical contact with his dog while they were on patrol. So this wasn't a hologram. He had a shotgun. He fired, and obviously, I mean, he's prior military. He hit it, and it turned away. But he could find no evidence of blood, no evidence of shooting this creature. So that's why, you know, if it's not paranormal, it's AI technology that's in place. That's another possibility on there. Wow. Then you also have the UFO, UAP sightings that go across across that portion, and you have a lot of these green and orange orbs that have been seen many times. You have these vibrations that are coming from underground that are so violent, they shake and rattle, everything, no matter how big or how strong it is. You've had poltergeist activity that's been documented inside the security location. The Shermans documented the same in their the newest homestead site.
But they document it, but do they actually have any photos?
They don't have photos of that, no.
That's the thing. If
Well,
you have
the entity almost seems to anticipate, and this is what the scientist said. So, from what the scientist said, there's two things: that this entity or entities is extremely intelligent and has a capability of anticipating what people think. The other thing is, scientists that were there were making this and fabricating it up to keep being employed.
Oh. Well, do you know anybody that does have any actual evidence by camera or video?
Of that, no. I do not know of anyone having documented
Of
it.
anything? Huh. That's the thing. When you don't have,
That we know of, remember.
you know.
Who knows what Bigelow kept to himself?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Huh. Well, it's a shame because a lot of people, they don't go on hearsay. They want to see evidence. They want to see video or picture. Now, was your investigation on the property, was it as an archaeologist or as a paranormal investigator or both?
It was both. I was looking at it from several points. We've talked before.
Yeah.
I had a lot of paranormal activity in my life, so I'm a firm believer that things that don't make sense happen all the time. So the technology and equipment that I took up with me was that of an anthropologist, an archaeologist, a paranormal investigator, and just to document anything that I possibly could.
What was the atmosphere like? How did you feel going on to near this property, this ranch?
Sure. So, I never. A lot of people say that they have this weird or intense feeling, and I didn't have that feeling there when I was near the ranch or when I was up on the ridge. I didn't experience anything except for that pole that was just shaking its head. That was incredible in and of itself. But in regards to anything else, no, not at that location.
Did you experience any strange phenomena or any paranormal experience at all?
I don't know. I had a lot of weird things happen. Just from my car getting hit in the morning, I was going to start doing everything, and whoever hit it took off. I had to make it mobile, get it, where I could use it. I had the weird, I don't know if it's paranormal, but when I was driving to a location, I was looking away from the road. When I turned back, there was a huge black bowl in the middle of the road, just out of nowhere. Now, it could have been where I just wasn't looking. So suddenly this big bowl was in the road. I had to slam on my brakes. I had my windows down. A wild turkey jumped into my car from my side.
Oh my God.
And was in the passenger seat, so I jumped out because it freaked me out. I ran around to the passenger side, opened the door, and it jumped out. And it took off with my brand new cable to my brand new GoPro.
Oh no!
I couldn't charge. I had to go find another cable to. And so
He probably ate it.
I was thinking, oh my gosh, these shapeshifters really are. phenomena that I had, and I'm still investigating it, and I'll be back up there in February or April, was at late at night, I was driving from Vernal to, I was going to go to the Ute Reservation, and when I was probably within a mile of the reservation, they were installing a traffic light or a temporary traffic light. So a police officer was diverting everybody down a rural road, which led northward. And this was just farms and ranches out there, and it was pitch black. You couldn't see anything past what your front headlights could see. And so I was driving probably about 20 miles an hour for a good 3 or 4 miles, trying to find a left turn. And I was in a car. I didn't have a 4x4 vehicle, and all the turns to the left were dirt roads, or leading to somebody's ranch or farm. So I couldn't turn left to go around to get to the reservation for about 15 minutes, and then I got frustrated, and I was like, well, this is just a wash. So I made a U-turn, and it was one lane in each direction, north and south. So I made the U-turn going north, and now I'm headed back south towards the police officer and the roadblock, so I could turn left and go back to Vernal. There was suddenly a huge deer in the middle of the road that looked like it had been hit.
Oh.
But Norene, that was impossible because I had just come from going from south going north, and it wasn't there, and there was nobody around me.
Really?
And there was no vehicles behind me. So I slowed down, and this big buck came up out of the east side and came up and was like touching noses to the deer that was dead in the road.
Oh no.
As this was happening, I looked up, and probably a few hundred yards going from south to north in my opposite direction was what looked to be a huge semi coming towards me. So I was like, oh crap, how am I going to get my car? Because these were narrow roads. So I started moving my car slightly to the right and was moving probably about 10 miles an hour, trying to get off. And, where 2 of my tires were off of the road and the other 2 were still on it.
Yeah.
I had passed the 2 deer that were still in the road, and I saw this truck just coming, and it was coming pretty fast, probably at what I estimated at about 50 miles an hour, which I thought was crazy because these roads are narrow and it's just pitch black out there. So it's coming up, and I stopped, and I kind of like held onto the wheel real tight because I thought I have a good possibility of getting hit by this semi. And then the lights were on me, and it flew right past, but my car didn't shake, and I didn't hear a truck. And I was like, what was that? I turned back, and I look in my side mirror, and then in my middle rear view mirror, there's no lights, no truck, no deer.
Oh.
And I was like, I opened up my car door, and I looked for the deer because, this thing had to have hit the dead deer at least, and it was going to cause an accident. There's no way this thing was you. There was nothing.
Wow. Hold on for James, hold on for 1 second. Cassandra, honey, can you take questions for me? I don't know what happened to Royce. Hold on for a second. Hold on. If anybody has any questions, can you please put them in caps, and Cassandra can send them to me? I don't know what happened to Royce. I know he wasn't feeling well. So, and he might have lost his internet service because they are having storms. So, can you take questions? Thank you. Yeah, put it in caps for Cassandra, and she'll send them to me if you have any, and I'll continue with James. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to do that. So you are an amazing, absolutely amazing person. I'm so interested in your archaeology. I absolutely love that. So, what are your plans now? I know you're going to write a book, but is there anything else more that you want to do with this besides writing a book?
Oh, absolutely. I already have plans of going back up there because there are a lot more petroglyphs that I want to document. I also, and I put this at the end of my lecture, so many people have been just gathering the same information just over and over. They constantly tell the same story, and we're always on this thing, we're looking for something to document. Well, based upon, and we never got into this, but I mean, there's a lot of interesting anomalies underground that create these huge electromagnetic forces on the Uinta Basin in that specific location. Just massive electromagnetism is taking place. There's also a product called gilsonite, which is a byproduct of the oil and natural gas that's everywhere underneath the reservation and the ranch and in the entire basin. That's unique only to there, and it's this amazing insulator. And then you think that there's a ton of graphene because that's a byproduct again of the oil, which is this conductor. So you have these magnetic anomalies everywhere taking place. So if we're talking about paranormal being able to pull and draw energy, you're talking probably about one of the best sites in the world to do this from. So I want to go out to two specific locations. One of those is near the ranch. Another one is north of the ranch. And at the same time, see if we can interfere or disrupt whatever communication or transmission is taking place and disrupt that energy for just a moment by using huge neodymium magnets, a specific sound frequency that I've been working on with someone, and also a large burst of electricity, maybe from like a large Tesla coil, and all of this at one time, and see if it disrupts something that's taking place there. So we're putting that together right now, and I'm working with several people, and I'm funding a part of it. But I mean, obviously, this equipment it's going to cost quite a bit of money.
Wow.
So we're working on getting that, and I want that to happen and see if it does anything. And so experiment, not just document. So yeah, my plans are to go back in February because there have been some very interesting things that have taken place in prior Februaries. The biggest one was when the entire reservation had a blackout, and there was like this green light resonating throughout the area. And then one of the government security guards at one of the government buildings saw these red and blue flashing lights that was to a UFO above the reservoir.
Wow.
And some type of huge portal had also activated above the water. And then that UFO didn't go into the portal. It headed southwards towards Skinwalker Ranch. But this same UAP, this UFO, has been seen multiple times, especially in February for some reason, because people keep confusing it for thinking that it's a police, coming up in their vehicle. And then there's just some other things that have happened in February that just make that, I don't know if it's based upon where we are, in the solar system in the galaxy, or if it has something to do with temperature, or connectivity in the air. And then I also plan on, and I'm trying to set up a time to get out there when Ryan Skinner is out there, so we can do a few things that we've been working on together and document a few things.
Wow. Do you think aliens are involved in this?
That's a good question. If it's that, or if it's something from, with all the mining that's been going on, if something was living, deep within the earth in that location, or we activated something, because this gilsonite, when it becomes, it's very soft, so it breaks apart, and it's susceptible to exploding. So there's been a lot of explosions, a huge fire back in 1945, and inside the planet in that location, or something was activated that was dormant or had not been functioning.
Could there be minerals there that the aliens want?
Absolutely. It is, like I said, it's unique. Gilsonite in and of itself is a very unique byproduct of, carbon, of oil. And there's a lot of minerals available in that location. And, Utah in and of itself has just a wealth of natural resources, but Norene, a lot of people say these UAP are attracted to certain locations to refuel in whatever way it is, or they draw from the Earth's electromagnetic force in some way. Well, let me tell you, this location, like I said, maybe 3 or 4 other locations around the world, has what I consider probably the highest electromagnetic and anomalies taking place, underground.
I had asked you why the government was so interested in their ranch, but I probably was not paying attention to what you said because I was looking for something else I had to do. All right, now so in the 1950s, the Shermans owned this ranch, and it was they called it the UFO Alley. When they had this ranch, did the government... how did the word get out about UFOs involved in this ranch, and when did the government start getting involved with this ranch? Was it when the Shermans had it?
Sure. So the activity, the UFO activity, is actually the Uinta Basin. It has some of the highest UFO sightings in the world. So it's not just the ranch. Now, there's a ton of these orbs that are seen in the ranch area that are green and orange. And the Myers homesteaded and ranched in that on the property in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There were 7 years where Mr. Myers passed away, and Edith Myers left the property but still owned it. When Edith passed away, Mr. Myers' brother, Dr. Garth Myers, sold the property to the Shermans. Terry stated that when they got on the property, stuff started happening. And he contacted Dr. Myers, and he, like I said, he didn't know anything. But there was still, that was when NIDS came in and started doing scientific investigation with the Shermans. The government wasn't involved yet. Now, Bigelow then purchased it from the Shermans, and the Shermans only lived there for a very short period of time. And then I think Bigelow purchased it for $200,000.
That's all?
Yeah, that's all because the Shermans got 2 higher offers, much higher. But they didn't want to sell it to people that they felt were just going to use it for ranching because they didn't want the same things to happen to them. They were worried about them. So he sold it to Bigelow because Bigelow promised them that he would do scientific investigation and they would try and find out what was taking place.
And at this time, the government was involved with the property.
More than likely the ATIPS program and that $23 million that, Senator Reid funded covertly, that a portion of that was going to Bigelow and to whatever was happening at the ranch. And obviously in the last month or two, it sure looks like there's a possibility that they were doing experiments or testing on how the anomalous events that take place there at the ranch affect human beings without them knowing about it. And also, there just has to be something with AI, with artificial and technology, the military and cloaking capability, because there's too many events taking place around the ranch by military personnel. And if you talk to them or something, they'll smile at you, and it's connected. But those are the 2 reasons, or the 2 ways
Do you think it'll ever be known as to why the government's there?
I don't have an answer for that, Norene. I do know that two of the past security personnel were going to receive their MRI results from Reno. I don't know if they got those yet and what's been happening in that regard, but that, I believe, is a start. As we learn more about ATIPs and the things going on, if they're willing to release more through a Freedom of Information Act, who's to say? Hopefully in the near future we'll see something like that.
Wow. Now those orange and green lights that are seen, you said they're orbs, they're not just lights, they're orbs?
So from what I gathered from talking to individuals, they are orbs.
I mean, orbs in which way? Like little balls of light that go across?
Multiple directions. But they always seem to be green and orange.
Huh. Did a show on the Dyatlov Pass up in the Ural Mountains, I think in Russia. And you probably don't know about the case, but anyway, about these 9 Russian skiers. They were hiking up there, and an awful incident happened up there. But they had also, I guess there were some other campers not too far away before they got killed. They also saw orange lights in the sky. And they believe that this incident also, that UFOs, aliens may be involved in that incident. So I just was curious about the orange orbs that is seen there, and the orange lights that are seen up in this Russian mountains where these 9 skiers got killed. That was interesting.
Yeah, if you were to ask me, I would tell you there are multiple entities involved. Multiple paranormal activity is taking place all at one time, and I feel that it's due to something that's available in that location, be it an energy source, a mineral, or a product that we're not yet aware of, or if something had been buried there or crashed there a long time ago and is just still, buried deep within that location. That's a possibility too that I wouldn't rule out.
All right, we have some questions for you. Let me get them. Thanks, Royce. Royce came back. Yay, thanks. Okay. Let me see here. Nellie Moen, why is the government still interested in the ranch?
You know what? I couldn't answer that. Like I said, I think there's a lot of testing that's still going on, and I feel like that's artificial intelligence that they're testing out, and also cloaking technology or some type of technology that makes people see different forms and shapes, even though it's an actual physical person or entity that's wearing that technology.
And Sarah B. wants to know, has anyone investigated the ranch? Has anyone actually been allowed on the property to do a full investigation?
Yes, so there is a new show coming out on the History Channel. It'll be out in the next few months. I believe it's called Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, and it's the same team that did Curse of Oak Island, and Ryan Skinner will be a part of that also, and some other individuals, and they were doing investigations. There was also one individual that I know of that was on there very recently that I saw what he had posted in regards to his investigations, and he came strictly from a paranormal background. So he was testing for EMF, he was doing voice recordings, and he was using those new voice boxes, which I saw him. He picked up a voice that knew the people by name when he was using that voice box, which I thought was amazing because
Has he shared that with anyone publicly?
I think there's some legal issues going on in that regards to that, so I'm going to stay out of that.
Okay. All right. Robert Hanna, do you think this cloaking technology is going on in Area 51?
You know what? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Area 51, if you ask me, is just a cover. I think that you would probably find more going on at Dugway or in Ohio. Where they.
I heard that they actually moved out of Area 51, or they went underground.
Yeah, I think it's in Dugway where they have everything taking place now.
So why did they?
That's just due to if you watch and see which groups of military are going to that location. It's interesting.
Why did they move out of Area 51?
I think it just became too public.
Oh, yeah, I heard they went underground, which makes sense because you can't see them anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot still takes place at Wright-Patterson, and probably locations that we have no idea are in existence.
Wow. All right.
Maybe the Antarctica is going to be the new hiding spot.
Well, Antarctica, there was, way back in the 30s. They said that Hitler was there, and he also was interested in the aliens and the paranormal, and I believe they were underground too. Not underground, but into the ice caves and whatever.
Yeah, I know he was part of that Thrill Society, and I know they had some interesting beliefs, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, there's something about Antarctica. We did do a show on it, and I can't remember. It was a couple of years ago, where it is supposed to be a UFO hotspot.
Yeah, that'd be the best place to conduct everything because there's no population.
No, and they make ice caves, I believe. They go into the ice caves.
And to get there, I mean, if you don't fly in, that sea is it's pretty, sporadic.
Oh, yeah.
Storms, and you're talking strong winds and gale force blown waters.
Yep. Okay, we have one more question from Aaron Brody. Heard dogmen are on the property too. Is that true?
Yeah, so that's interesting because it almost looks like dogmen and the Petroglyphs too. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things on my list for my February visit. Is there are multiple stories about dogmen on the ranch, on the ridge, and at the Ute Reservation, and some of the people that were interviewed are very credible. So that's an absolute possibility. And then when you look at the petroglyphs, you're looking at these anthropomorphic figures that match what people are saying are the dogmen.
Let's see, Royce Armad, he posted, he said that the military is always trying to find a way to open or use portals to open one over, and enemies, army, and then jump, deliver bombs, then proof disappear before they can get a shot off, be home in a second. The military has been trying to crack portals and teleportation since the 1940s and even before. They want a fighting force they can teleport out and back without loss of any life weapons.
Yeah, what's interesting in that regard is I did a prior lecture on catastrophic events, and what's interesting is NASA has been studying what are called X points, just several thousand miles outside of Earth, and they have multiple satellites up there currently, and these X points are where the sun is opening up what would be considered a portal at these X points. And what's worrisome is if a CME or something were to emit from the sun at that same time that that portal opens up between the sun and the earth, at that X point, we would suddenly have this massive solar outburst that would only be from a few thousand kilometers away. But not just from that point, but why is NASA and the government so interested in how portals activate? And they know it's on NASA currently. You can go and see this yourself. They're finding out how long they last. They're trying to figure out why some are instant and they close right away and why others stay open for so long, and what the energy levels are that are causing these to open, and what the forces are behind them before they collapse. So if that's taking place and it's documented, we see the satellites, they've been up there for a couple of years now. It's absolutely possible that these portals could form here within, the Earth's boundaries as well.
Well, James, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about the Skinwalker Ranch. It's always been a favorite topic of mine. I absolutely love it. And after you write your book is published, please come back on the show and tell us what you've captured, what more evidence that you have.
I will.
And are you going to try and take more pictures, maybe capture something that you could show us?
You know what? Yes. I had the camera, I had that GoPro once I got a cord for it, monitoring up in the sky. And I still haven't had an opportunity to go back and look at all the video yet.
Oh, okay. Well, please do that. And come back on the show when your book is published. I'd love to have you back and tell us more. Oh, I wanted to ask you, forbidden archaeology, what do you mean by that?
So, forbidden archaeology is things that we're not supposed to know about. We're supposed to stick to this history that we're always taught in school. It's for a reason. We're not supposed to, venture away from the story that's being told and that they want, whatever powers that may be telling us. And there's human history of cultures and civilizations that were far more advanced than ours, that we know of, have gone back as far as 2 interglacial periods back, which was about 130,000 years ago. And technology existed here that was far more advanced than ours. And what you're seeing when you look at the current, like the pyramids in Egypt, or Teotihuacan in Mexico, or Cholula, these are copies of copies of copies. And they lost their ability at whatever they were there for. And people say, well, it has technological ability. I don't believe it does anymore. I think that historical data got watered down as these catastrophic events took place, and we lost that knowledge of our prior civilizations and cultures, especially when these catastrophes wiped out more than likely 99% of the human population. And like at the beginning of the Bible, most people don't realize, if you read it, it's actually talking about 2 separate catastrophic events. The first one was with Adam and Eve, and then about 6,800 years ago, there was a massive deluge caused by something. That was the story of Noah, or Gilgamesh.
You want to do a show on that?
Oh, sure.
Forbidden archaeology? That's right up your. That's right up you, right? Okay. So I will set up. We will do a show next year on forbidden archaeology. I love that topic. There was I saw on your Facebook page, I think it was last year, something about going to the Vatican and has tunnels.
Oh yeah, so the Vatican has passageways, all throughout. When we were there, they showed one of those that the Pope used to use to go wherever he needed to go. It's been there's a wood board in there, and they said it leads directly out, but you see how huge that place is. It's got to be catacombed with the tunnel system.
How did you know about the tunnel?
Oh, they actually tell you about that.
Oh.
But they only tell you about
What was the tunnel? What do you think the tunnel was used for?
I think it was for them to go wherever they wanted to go without being seen.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I'm pretty sure it leads to, vaults where they have probably things stored that they don't want us to know about, especially books, documents, scrolls.
Yeah.
Because when I've attempted twice to get access, they charge you this huge fee, and then you don't hear back from them. So.
Yeah. Wow. Well, James, it was such a pleasure. Another interesting show from you. I'll have to put a little playlist together with you because now this is our second show. And the other one was really an interesting show with the shadow people. And hurry up and write that book and get it published so I can have you on the show next year. And anything. I mean, you contacted me and said, "Oh, Norene, you're not going to believe what I have on the Skinwalker Ranch." If you have anything else that you want to share, let me know, okay? We'll do another show. You're always welcome on the show. You're brilliant, and the fact that you're an archaeologist, I love what you do. You should go to his Facebook page, James Keenan. You should see the stuff he posts. Oh my God, it's awesome! And you wrote 5 books. Now I remember talking to you when you wrote that book on shadow people and the terrible experiences that you had, and you posted it as fiction. You need to change that, honey, because that's based on true events. It should not be fiction.
Right, and I have 3 books in the works. So, yes, that's a future coming soon.
Oh, you didn't write the book yet on that? I thought you did.
The nonfiction book I have not.
Oh, okay. So you still have the fiction book, which should not be fiction, and so now you're writing a nonfiction. Good idea. Okay, and then you have 5 books, and they're all based on paranormal, supernatural content.
Right. The last book was for children. It was 4th, 5th, 6th grade reader, AR reading, to introduce them to ufology and technology. It's called The UFO and an Alien, and to introduce them to the jargon that's used and to get them interested in coming out, asking questions.
Well, that's probably good for some adults too.
It is.
Who want to know more about it. Yeah. Awesome. And you don't have a website, but they can find your books on Amazon?
Correct. It's amazon.com/author/James Keenan.
Yeah. And I'll put that link underneath the video so they can find your books. That sounds awesome. James, thank you so much. I so enjoyed having you on the show again. Awesome guest as always, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Great. Thank you, Norene. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, honey. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, awesome. I love James. Everybody, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. He is so intelligent, and I just love what he does. I love archaeology. I hope you enjoyed the show. And he gave a really good look at what's going on, not just ghosts and monsters and the paranormal, but what else is going on at that Skinwalker Ranch. And that's why I was so interested when he contacted me. Anyway, it's great history. So I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is the last show for this year because I am cooking. 30 people are coming to my house. We're doing some remodeling, and it won't be done until like 3 days before Christmas, and it's hectic around here. So I'm done for the year. I hope you guys understand. I hope you come back in January. Let's see. you know who's coming on the show? The first show will be January 7th with Sean Austin. Remember he was in the series with Ralph, oh God, Sarchi, with the show on demons and evil. He now has his own show, and it's starting December 27th, I think. Anyway, so he'll be on the show, and he's going to talk about his cases and what's going on with that show. And then my second guest for the month is Ron Fayol. I don't know if you remember him. I did couple of fabulous shows with him. He does exorcisms, and he has a church, some kind of a church organization. I can't remember what it is, but he talked about the one show that was so good was on the cases, the creepy, scary cases that he did on exorcism. So he's coming back, and so anyway, that's it for the year. And come back in January and see me. And I want to say good night to everybody. Let's do some shout outs. Oh, please, our mods, Royce Hinman, Cassandra, and Crystal Triplet. Thank them all for being here. Without them, that you would not have the great chat room that we have. Please keep your prayers for Crystal, Cassandra, and Royce. Please pray for them. Give them, wish them happy thoughts, positive energy, and keep them in your prayers, okay? So, let's do, Royce sent me a list. Let's see. All right. Oh, and Robert Hanna, thank you so much for the super chat money. That was really, really nice of you. Thank you so much. Let's do shout outs. Aaron Brody, Andrew and his trucking gnomes, Beat 3 Airspace, Cassandra 50, Dust Bunny, I Am Alpha, Lori Miller, Lully Tubi, Nebet Seta, Robert Hanna, Royce Hinman, Sarah B, The Haglin, and Crystal Triplet. And a special shout out to Cassandra. Yeah, she needs your love and strength. Group hug around Cassandra, okay? Oh, Aaron Brody, oh, thanks, honey. How sweet. Thank you so much for the super chat money. Alice Crawley, Bama, Rids. I know Carl White's out there, and didn't see Tallcross tonight. Chippa Terry. Anybody else? Dust Bunny? Oh, there you are, Carl White. I don't know what happened to Tallcross tonight. Huh. All right, guys. I love you guys. Have a wonderful holidays. Happy Christmas. Have a wonderful New Year as well, okay? And group hug. Love you guys. And I'll see you January 7th, okay? If you want the real McCoy, if you want show reminders, you can go to ParanormalZoneTV and click the little tab that says show reminders and sign up for show reminders. Otherwise, you can just go to my front page on my channel, and when I have the YouTube event set up, you can just click on it. It'll send you a reminder, okay? All right, I'm going to go. Did we do a shout out to Alice Crawley? Did I miss anybody? Yeah, I love you guys. Love you, Cassandra, Crystal, and Royce, and everybody else. Lori Miller. I mean, I love my mods. They're always here for me, and I just love them. So, okay, guys, I'm going to go. I'm going to have dinner now with my husband. So, okay, guys, love you. So, I guess I'll see you on January 7th, okay? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, guys. Love you. Bye.